Good morning, everyone. On Sunday mornings, I have been talking on this text, opening the hand of thought, and I go very slowly. In my record, this is the 148th talk. I started, I think, 2006, but I'm still page 97. So I go almost paragraph by paragraph. And today I'm going to talk on the last paragraph of page 97, if you have this text. Let me read the paragraph. The early scriptures, known as the Agamas or the Nikaya, say, truly seeing the aggregation of the world, the view of non-existence does not arise. Truly seeing the non-substantiality of the world, the view of existence does not arise. This view that all things exist is one extreme. The view that nothing exists is the other extreme. Being apart from these two extremes, the Tathagata teaches the Dharma of the middle way, because this exists, that exists, because this arises, that arises. So this paragraph is a quote. And in this section 6 of this book, The World of Self Unfold, Okumura Roshi is discussing about the meaning or significance of Zazen practice in the context of modern civilization. And he, in the introduction, he said the nature of this modern civilization based on science and technology combined with political, economical, and military power has a problem. That means we are living within certain fixed system of value. That means we are also, the condition we are in is not good, or at least good enough. Therefore, we need to work hard to achieve something and make the situation better. So, Okumura said the basic driving force of this modern civilization is dissatisfaction. It is not good enough, so we need to go somewhere better, or achieve something better. To do so, we need to work hard. And based in Buddhist teachings, this is very kind of the cause that our life becomes suffering within samsara. In the teaching of Four Noble Truths, Buddha said everything is suffering, and the cause of suffering is ignorance and desires or thirst. And in order to satisfy our desires, we do so many things, working hard, and then sometimes we feel like we are heavenly beings. We feel our desires are satisfied. But more often, we feel like a hungry ghost. We desire more. And when that desire is completed, then we have more desire to have better things. So this desire or this satisfaction has no end. And sometimes we feel like we are in the hell. There's no way our desire can be fulfilled. So the situation or condition of our life is always changing. So our condition is always changing. So as far as we live based on this structure that we have dissatisfaction, in order to fulfill our desire, we do something. And sometimes we feel successful, sometimes we feel failure. As far as we live on that basis, there's no peaceful, stable foundation of our life. We are always chasing after something or escaping from something, and that is samsara. And also, when we are living in this structure, our life is based on greed. And also, we live in this structure, our life becomes competition with others, because all people want to get the same thing. And when we say successful, that means we want to be better than others. If others are failure and I am successful, then I can say my life is successful. If everyone is successful, there's no such thing as success. So success and failure is a dichotomy. And if there's no failure, there's no success. So to be successful means I accomplish better than others. So this way of life become goal-oriented based on greed and also competition with others. And in that way of life, we cannot find the peace of mind, because our way of life is based on dissatisfaction and competition. Even when we are successful, we have fear when we lose it, because other people want to get what I have. So, Okumura said, this way of life in the modern civilization is lack of peace of mind. So, we need to find where we can find peace of mind. But he also said there is another extreme that is the opposite of goal-oriented and competitive life. That means everything is okay, I don't care. This is a kind of blind of our problems. In this world there are so many difficulties and problems. Some of them are caused by human beings, by ourselves. But if we ignore those difficulties or problems and think everything is okay, I don't need anything. And Okumura said that attitude is foolish. And greedy way of life, he said, that is crazy civilization. But the opposite is foolish civilization. And he think we need to find the middle way between these two. That means our life is not based on greed, and yet we work diligently. Is such a way of life possible or not? And what Okumura is talking about, the meaning or significance of Zazen practice based on Buddhist teachings is that this middle way. So in this page 97, he start the new section. That's the title of the section is Interdependence and the Middle Way. So Uchiyama Roshi think this interdependence and middle way is the essential point of Buddhist teaching, and also our practice of Zazen is this based on the teaching of interdependence and middle way. And the quote that I read is from both Pali Nikaya. This is the English translation of Pali Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, and the same sutta, same very short sutta or sutra is found in Chinese translation of Agama. Agama and Nikaya are the same thing, but Chinese translation is from Sanskrit, and Nikaya is Pali. That means in India, some Buddhist schools written down their scriptures in using Pali language, and other schools used Sanskrit language. And Sanskrit version was translated to China. So if same sutta or sutra are found in both Pali and Chinese, that means this sutta or sutras are from the time age before this separation. That means this is quite old. Anyway, actually I talked about this quote twice in July. The last time, that was July 26, the last time I gave Dharma talk, I introduced Nagarjuna's Madhyamika Karika. And he said, Nagarjuna said, his teaching of the middle way between Wu and Mu, or being and non-being, or existence and non-existence, came from this passage from the Pali Nikaya, or Agama. So in Japan, this quote is discussed as a kind of a thread between Shakyamuni's teaching and Mahayana teaching established by Nagarjuna. The word middle way is as old as Buddhist history. Middle way or path. In Japanese or Chinese, that is Chu, Do. Chu is center or middle, and Do is way or Dao or path. This word is used by Shakyamuni when he first taught the 5 monks at Deer Park, right after he attained awakening under the Bodhi tree. First thing Shakyamuni said to those 5 monks when he was approaching was, I have discovered the middle way. And this middle way means middle way between self-indulgence and self-mortification. Self-indulgence means the way of life he spent when he stayed at his father's palace, pursuing the pleasure, sensual pleasure. And self-mortification refers to ascetic practice. Shakyamuni practiced for 6 years before he started to sit under the Bodhi tree. And Buddha said these two are not meaningful. So what he found was middle path, middle way between these two. And he said the middle way is eightfold correct path or Hashodo. That is how this middle way is used in the early Buddhism. But in Mahayana teaching established by Nagarjuna, the middle way means a little different. The title of the chapter Nagarjuna discussed about this quote is entitled The Examination of Existence and Non-Existence, or Wu and Mu. Wu is being, Mu is non-being, or existence and non-existence, Wu and Mu. And Nagarjuna used this word middle way between these two views. He said, view of being or existence is one extreme, and view of non-existence is another extreme. But Buddha taught the middle way, neither Wu nor Mu. So that is the Nagarjuna's understanding. Nagarjuna's understanding means Mahayana understanding of middle way. So these two are a little different. And yet Nagarjuna said when he talks about middle way on the basis of Wu and Mu, he said this is Buddha's teaching. And he mentioned this quote. So for Nagarjuna, this passage is very important. That means he's teaching about middle way between Wu and Mu is not his personal opinion, but came from Shakyamuni's teaching. So this passage is very important as a connection between Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching and Mahayana teaching. And when I read that English translation of Pali Nikaya on this passage, it's kind of interesting. This passage is originally from, this is English translation of Samyutta Nikaya. And this short sutta is entitled Kaccana Gotta. C-A-N-A-G-O-T-T-A, Kaccana Gotta. And if we want to check with this text, it appeared page 544. This is a teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha to this monk who is called Kaccana Gotta. Gotta means clan or tribe, and Kaccana is the name of the clan. So this is a monk who is from this Kaccana clan. And it seems this clan lived far away from where Buddha taught. That is like Magadha, central India. And the most famous monk from Kaccana clan is called Mahakaccayana. He was one of the 10 greatest Buddha disciples of Buddha. And he was a very intellectual person. But I'm not 100% sure if this Kaccana Gotta is same as Mahakaccayana. But anyway, this passage, Okumura Roshi quote, appeared from this sutta, short sutta called Kaccanagata. And that is what Nagarjuna mentioned in Majjhimakakarika. But interesting thing is this sutta is quoted within Nikaya. That is, to me, that is interesting. This is in the same Nikaya. The number is 98, appeared at page 946 of this book. And the title of this short sutta is Channa. Channa is also a name of a monk. And in this sutta, interesting thing is this person, Channa, he was a monk, had a question about Buddha's teaching. And he wanted to find the answer to his question, but other elder monk couldn't give him the satisfying answer. So he traveled to visit Ananda. And Ananda showed or introduced this teaching, Buddha's teaching to Kaccayana. And in this sutta, there's no Buddha appeared. So this is a conversation between Channa and Ananda. And to me, it didn't say, but it seems this was after Buddha passed away. So this monk Channa could not visit Buddha himself to make sure what the answer to his question. That's why he visited Ananda, because Ananda was young when Buddha passed away, so he lived longer, much longer than other important disciples of Buddha. So I'd like to introduce the meaning of this saying, that means middle way between U and Mu, from the sutta name entitled Channa. It said, on one occasion, a number of bhikkhus, monks, were dwelling at Varanasi in the deer park at Ishpatana. So this person lived in the deer park where Shakyamuni gave first teaching. Then, in the evening, the Venerable Channa, this person, Venerable Channa, emerged from seclusion and taking his key. I don't know why he had the key. Maybe there's something he didn't want to be stolen. Taking his key, went from dwelling to dwelling, saying to the elder bhikkhus or monks, let the elder venerable one exhort me, let them instruct me, let them give me a Dharma talk in such a way that I might see the Dharma. So he had a question, and he thought he had not yet seen the Dharma. This Dharma is, in this translation, capital D Dharma. So he asked the elder monks that please let me see the Dharma. Then other monks said, when this was said, the elder monks said to the Venerable Channa, form, friend Channa, form is impermanent, feeling is impermanent, perception is impermanent. Volitional formations are impermanent. Consciousness is impermanent. These refer to 5 skandhas. So first they said 5 skandhas are impermanent. And they continued. Form is non-self. Feeling is non-self. Perception is non-self. Volitional formation are no self. Consciousness is no self. All formations are impermanent. All phenomena are non-self. So they talked about 5 skandhas, 5 aggregate, and he said all of those 5 elements are impermanent and has no self, without self. Of course, this is what Buddha taught. So those elder monks repeated what Buddha taught. But Channa had a question about this saying. Then it occurred to the Venerable Channa. I too, could you close the door? I too think in this way. Form is impermanent, and he repeat the same thing. All formations are impermanent, all phenomena are non-self. He said, I understand that. I think all Buddhist monks know that. But he said, but my mind does not launch out upon the stilling of all formations. Stilling of all formations. The relinquishing of all acquisitions. The destruction of craving, dispassion, cessation, nirvana. Nor does it acquire confidence, settle down, and resolve on it. That means even I understand that teaching. 5 skandhas are impermanent and no self. His mind is still not in peace. He still has some, problems. And he continued. Instead, agitation and clinging arising, and the mind turns back, thinking, but who is myself? So he understands 5 skandhas are impermanent and no self, but still his mind is not calmed down. He still has agitation. He doesn't have peace of mind. But such does not happen to one who sees the Dharma. So he understands what Buddha taught about 5 skandhas. But so he had understanding, but because his mind is still not in peace, he doesn't see the Dharma yet. But such does not happen to one who sees the Dharma. So who can teach me the Dharma in such a way that I might see the Dharma? So his question is, he has intellectual understanding of what Buddha taught, but his mind is still not in peace. That is strange to him. If he sees the Dharma as Buddha did, then his mind should be released from suffering or clinging. But he found his mind is still clinging to something. So what is the problem? And he thought the problem is he understand Buddha's teaching, but he didn't see the Dharma as a reality as it is. To me, this is interesting. That means when we study Buddhist teachings, like 5 skandhas, and we understand 5 skandhas are impermanent, things are changing, and there's no fixed entity within 5 skandhas. So 5 skandhas are, or aggregates are, coming and going. It's a collection of different elements. So nothing is fixed, nothing is permanent. And I think we can understand, and because we agree with that teaching, I think we become Buddha's student, and started to study Buddhism and practice Buddhist practice. But when we see that I or study and understand Buddha's teaching, in this case about 5 skandhas, there's a separation between I, subject, and the Buddha's teaching as object. So, as a kind of objective teachings, I understand and I agree, but still the way we see, we understand, is kind of there's a separation between subject and object, and I understand that. But 5 skandhas are not that. 5 skandhas is I. We are 5 skandhas. So this means as far as we study and understand Buddha's teaching, something as an object, then it has nothing to do with this person who is studying and who is practicing, and this person is thinking, I understand 5 skandhas are empty. Impermanence and no self is the same as empty. And I agree with it, and I practice, and we expect that help me. It means there's something called me or I separate from the teaching. The teaching does not become I, or I does not has not yet become the teaching. That means when we study that 5 skandhas are impermanent, no self, and empty, those 5 skandhas are not something outside, but about this thing. So he didn't see that. He is still thinking and agree that Buddha's teaching was correct. But because the teaching is not himself, so his mind is still up and down. That means when we study Buddhist teaching, I understand and I agree with it, and I try to practice it. But when we practice, when we start to practice, we almost always have some problems, our problems, and I want to get out of that problem. That's why we start to study something new, some better way of life. And in the case of Buddhism, what Buddha taught is our life is suffering because of desire or delusion. So we want to change the way of life, to the cessation of suffering and path which leads to cessation of suffering. In the Four Noble Truths, there's a two set of cause and result. Suffering, and the cause of suffering is our desire, our delusion. And another set of cause and result is cessation of suffering. And cause of cessation of suffering is practice of Eightfold Correct Path. So when we study or practice Buddhism, we want to make this transformation. I think that is what happened to us. But when we do this, and when we still think in this way, this means I don't like this, I love this, so I hate, I don't like this way of life, so I want to escape from this way of life, and I want to get this way of life. So when we understand Buddhist teaching within this structure, still there's a duality, based on duality. So lack of satisfaction. So I don't think we are not good. So we need to go that way. So the object is different. In this way, we want to satisfy our ego-centered desire. But when we think that way of life is not healthy, we want to find another way of life, alternative way of life. And we think this is not good, this is good. Then if we live in this study and practice in this way, then we are still looking for the satisfaction. And we still think we are not good. So as far as we are studying and practicing within this structure, the cessation of suffering become the object of our desire, new goal we should reach. Then what is happening within ourselves is the same. The object is different. It's not wealthy or fame or material things, but dharma or enlightenment or a better way of life, healthier way of life. That means I don't have it. Therefore, my life is not good. So if I get that thing, then we become better. So the objects are different, but things happening inside of our mind is the same. I feel something is lacking. So if I get something to fill that emptiness, something lacking, then we become better. So in that sense, our basis of our life, it has not transformed. Only the object changed what we want. As far as we study and practice Dharma in this structure, that means I understand this or that, but this I doesn't change. That is a problem. And this person, Channa, found that problem. I understand and I agree everything what Buddha taught, but still my mind is the same condition. I'm still looking for reach there. I wanted to become like Buddha. So he couldn't find any satisfying answer from those elder monks. He visited Ananda with expectation that Ananda could give him a correct answer. So the Venerable Channa set his lodging in order, took his bowl and robe, and went to Goshita's Park in Kosambi. I don't know how far is it, but he traveled to visit Ananda, where he approached the Venerable Ananda and exchanged greeting with him. When they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side and told the Venerable Ananda everything that had happened. So he told what happened when he asked this question to other monks, and other monks couldn't give him a correct answer or satisfying answer. So he asked Ananda to give me some answer. Then Ananda said, even by this much am I pleased with the Venerable Channa. Perhaps the Venerable Channa has opened himself up and broken through his barrenness. Barrenness? B-A-R-R-E-N, barrenness. Barren. That means Ananda said, it's good to have that question. And came to ask to visit Ananda to ask the question. And Ananda continued, lend your ear, friend Channa. You are capable of understanding the Dharma. So Ananda said, it's possible to see this Dharma. And what Ananda said to Channa was, in the presence of the Blessed One, that Shakyamuni, I have heard this, friend Channa. In his presence, I have received the exhortation. He spoke to his bhikkhu or monk, Kacchanagotta. Then he recited the Sutra of Kacchanagotta. So I start to read the Kacchanagotta Sutta. And in this sutta, Kacchanagotta asked Buddha, Shakyamuni, about the right view. So the monk Kacchana said, Venerable Sir, it is said, right view, right view. In what way, Venerable Sir, is there right view? Right view is the first of the eightfold correct or right path. What is this right view? Then, in this case, Buddha answered to this monk. Buddha said, this world, for the most part, depends upon a duality, upon the notion of existence and the notion of non-existence. This is Wu and Mu. But for one who sees the origin of the world, in this case, this origin means arising, or in Japanese that means show. Origin of the world, this is not really origin of the world, this universe, but origin or arising of things in the world. As it really is, with correct wisdom, there is no notion of non-existence. That is Mu. That means when someone with wisdom see the arising then he negate or become free from the notion of non-existence, because it come into being. Things are coming into being. When we see something come into being, the person becomes free from the notion of mu, nothing. And for one who sees the cessation of the world, cessation means myths, usually is perishing, so arising and perishing. When with wise person sees the perishing of things, he is there is no notion of existence or u in regard to the world. That means when wise person sees something arise, come into being, he negates the notion of mu, or non-existence. But eventually this thing disappear or perish. Then the person becomes free from the notion of existence. So by seeing arising and perishing, the person becomes free from the notion or concept of existence and the concept of non-existence. But usually we see when something arises, we see, this is existence. So we grasp the idea or concept of existence. But when we see the perishing, things perish, we see we kind of established in our mind the concept of non-existence. That's how these two, existence and non-existence, are established. But white person, when they experience the same things, they negate those notions, those concepts, and become free from either u nor mu. That is what Buddha taught. And Buddha continues. This world is for the most part shackled by engagement, clinging, and adherence, attachment. We attach either u or mu. But this one, with right view, does not become engaged and cling through that engagement and clinging mental standpoint. So that which person does not cling to certain standpoint. Adherence, underlying tendency. He does not take a stand about myself. This myself is I. He does not take a stand about myself. Does not stand means stand. Take a stand about myself means he doesn't think myself is either u nor mu. He has no perplexity or doubt that what arises is only suffering arising. What ceases is only suffering ceasing. So there's no I, no observer. But when suffering arises, he sees suffering arise. And when suffering ceases, he sees suffering cease. It's not a matter of I suffer. Another important point of Buddha's teachings, there's no I which suffer. But what Buddha taught is 5 skandhas. When they are attached, those 5 skandhas are themselves suffering. Actually, the things that attach to 5 skandhas are 5 skandhas. So 5 skandhas attach themselves 5 skandhas, and these 5 skandhas become upadana skandhas. That means attached skandhas. Then the 5 skandhas themselves suffering. There's no person who is suffering. So when suffering arises, there is suffering arises, but there's no I who is suffering. And when suffering ceases, just suffering ceases. There's no I that release from the suffering. So he does not take a stand about myself. He has no perplexity or doubt that what arises is only suffering arising. What ceases is only suffering cease. Not only about suffering. Happiness is the same. Happiness arises and happiness ceases. But there's no I who is happy or who is unhappy. His knowledge about this is independent of others. It is independent of others means we don't need to wait for Buddha's or someone's teaching. We can see that things actually happening within ourselves. It is in this way, Kachana, that there is right view. So according to this teaching of Buddha in this sutta, right view means seeing things happening within and around us, being free from either U or Mu. That is right view. So right view is the middle way between these two. And Buddha continues, all exist. This is one extreme. If we think everything we see is really existing, then that is one extreme. All does not exist. This is the second extreme. So, U is one extreme. To see everything is U is one extreme. To see everything is Mu or non-existence is another extreme. Without varying, V-E-E-R, without varying, toward either of these extremes. The Tathagata, I think Tathagata means Buddha himself, teaches the Dharma or Dhamma here in Pali, by the middle. So he used this word middle way or middle between U and Mu. So according to Nagarjuna, this idea of middle way between U and Mu is not his personal opinion, but that is what Buddha taught. But it seems, this teaching of Shakyamuni was not so well known before Nagarjuna. Anyway, with ignorance as condition, volitional formations come to be. With volitional formation as condition, consciousness, such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. There's the abbreviation. This is about the 12 links of causation. So from ignorance, formation came up, and from formation, consciousness arises, and the 12th is the all different kind of sufferings. So here, according to this sutta, this teaching of 12 links of causation that makes our life all different kinds of sufferings, is taught based on this idea of middle way between U and Mu. That is what Buddha said in this sutta. And after Ananda, I returned to the sutta of Channa. After introducing this teaching of Buddha, Ananda's not Ananda, but this is Channa. So it is, friend Ananda, for those venerable ones who have such compassionate and benevolent brothers in the holy life, to admonish and instruct them. And now that I have heard this Dhamma teaching of the Venerable Ananda, I have made the breakthrough to the Dhamma. So by hearing this, he had breakthrough to Dhamma. That means he was able to see the Dharma. That means he really see, five skandhas means himself. About this view of U and Mu came originally means U and Mu of Atma. That means, Buddha taught our life is a collection of five skandhas. But somehow we think there's something that called me or I that doesn't change, and only one, and owner of these five skandhas and operator of these five skandhas. We assume there's such thing that within five skandhas, the owner and operator of five skandhas. That's why I think this is my body, this is my eye, ear, tongue, body, and mind, and I use these five skandhas. But what Buddha taught about Atma is there's no such owner. That is the teaching of Anatman. But the extreme of Mu, or non-existence, refers to there's no such I. Therefore, only five skandhas are there. So when this lifetime is over, then nothing continues. So this teaching about U and Mu has something to do with reincarnation, or transmigration, or rebirth. If there is Atman, then this Atman, when five skandhas are dispersed, this Atman gets the new five skandhas. Like an owner of a car, when car is broken, the owner gets a new car. It really makes sense. But when Buddha said there's no such owner, only car is there, then when car is broken, what happens? That is the end of the story. That is what this Mu means. That is what this view of non-existence means. When we die and five skandhas disappear, nothing continues. And Buddha negated this view also. So this becomes a problem for us. In that traditionally Buddhist teaching accept the idea of rebirth, but Buddha taught there's no such Atman. Nothing, continue. So then we hear this teaching of Anatman, or non-existence of Atman, then we think, when we die, this is the end of all the story. Nothing continues. But we need to be careful that Buddha negates that idea also. So he doesn't affirm, he negated there's something which continues. But he also negated the idea or thought that the end of these 5 skandhas, nothing continues. So fun. How can these two get along? This is really a good koan to us. And we should not negate neither. What is this? This is really strange teaching. And intellectually, it doesn't make sense. This is why when I often I'm asked, do you believe rebirth or not? Or rebirth or reincarnation or not? And my answer is always, I don't believe it. But I don't negate it. Because there's no reason I can believe. And there's no reason I can negate. So that answer, my answer came from this teaching. Then what? That is a question. And we have to accept that contradiction. Usually we want to be this one or that one. If this is correct, then this is not correct. And if this is correct, this is not correct. So we have to take one thing and negate other thing. That is how we usually do when we think using concept and logic. Two contradicted things cannot get together. That is really difficult one for us when we think intellectually. But what Buddha taught is we should accept both, or negate either, negate both. That means we are free from our way of conceptual, logical way of thinking. Does it make sense? That's why our life becomes koan. If we think this is correct and that is not correct, then we are mistaken. And if we think this is correct and that is not correct, then this is a mistake. But both are, if we think both are correct, that is also a mistake. And neither are correct, that is not also a mistake. That means we have to give up to think in that way. This giving up is what letting go of thought means. In our thinking, depending upon our tendency, or depending upon how our life, how we are educated, what we experienced, we have tendency to cling to this way or that way. So depending upon who we are. When we think this is correct, we let go of this idea. But when we think this side is correct, then we give up this idea. That is how letting go of thought in our thinking is practiced. And in our zazen, in our sitting, by really letting go of all different kind of thinking, we can be free from either side. And yet we don't negate either side. This wu and mu, and both wu and mu, and neither wu and mu, are called four, what is the word? For possibility, for logical possibility about wu and mu. And we should be free from all four possibilities. Then what is our koan? That means we need to see our life is not grasped with those kind of logical way of thinking. That is another point of this teaching. So in this, from this very short quote, I think this is very essential point of Buddhist teachings. That we need to become free from this structure, I and object. Because in fact, Buddha is talking about this I as five skandhas. And another point is we need to be free from any kind of logical possibility. That means we need to be free from our way of thinking. Whatever way of thinking, whatever tendency of way of thinking we have, we become free or letting go. That means we see the reality as it is. We try to see before defined and grasped using words and concept and logics. And it's really difficult or almost impossible in our daily life because we have already living in the world kind of constructed based on right, wrong, good, bad, variable, not variable. So somehow, in order to live in this human world, we have to use it. But if we think that is only reality, then our life becomes suffering. We cannot find a peaceful foundation. So by seeing the reality, beyond or before making such discrimination, we find the peaceful foundation of our life in which we have to think. And sometimes we have to compete. Sometimes, not sometimes, but always we have to work diligently to make ourselves and our situation better. Still, the foundation is neither good nor bad. That is the, I think, basis of our life, beyond our thinking. And our practice of, in our tradition, that means Dogen Zenji tradition, is just sitting, is where we can calm down and settle down and become free from all that different kind of thinking or idea and sit. But when we live in the daily lives, somehow we have to use thinking and good and bad and making choice and work hard. So we need this kind of a balance between thinking and not thinking. In our Zazen, both are completely there. As Dogen said in Fukan Zazengi, think of not thinking. How do you think of not thinking? Beyond the thinking. This beyond the thinking include both thinking and not thinking. Well, this is what I have. Well, it's already almost 11:30. I'm sorry, I talk too much. Any question or comments, please?
So this particular state of being beyond, our categories, is that what Okumura Roshi was referring to when he said, before we cook our life? Is that?
Yeah, the reality before being processed or cooked using our thinking. Yes. He said, raw reality, fresh reality. Please.
A small question. When the Buddha said this sutta, did he say it in Sanskrit? When he first taught, he taught it in Pali?
No.
Oh.
Neither Pali nor Sanskrit. Pali language was made to record Buddha's teachings at least few hundred years after Buddha's death. And Sanskrit was the language used in the emperor's court. So it's a literature language. It's not a language common people used. So probably fat dogen, not dogen, Buddha used was the language spoken in Magadha.
Yeah, I think I heard it. And Magadhi.
Magadhi.
Hindi, a kind of Hindu.
A kind of Indian, one of the Indian languages. It said in India there are more than 200 languages. So I don't know exactly which language he spoke. Okay. Okay, thank you.